What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspirations podcast, and today I have a great guest named Steve. Steve is a real estate investor and founder of the Bald Eagle investment firm, and I am excited to have him on and talk real estate and the man that we become and the person you become as a result of doing real estate. So, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. Can you do yourself a favor of introducing me and the audience to who you are and telling us a brief story of your background and how you got into real estate?
Look, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So yeah, my name's Steve Keighery. Originally from Australia, which is why I have this funny accent. I've been an entrepreneur, most of my life, starting businesses and getting involved in real estate. I was able to successfully exit one of my businesses in Australia, and I came to New Orleans initially for like a 6-month holiday and just fell in love with this place. And that was 6 years ago. So now I live in New Orleans. I invest in real estate here. I'm primarily always looking for deals. I wholesale a lot of deals to other investors. I buy rentals myself and burrs, and just really soaking up the culture fun of New Orleans while working hard and building a portfolio.
Yeah, nah, man. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to dive a little more into your story. I know in like 2002, you graduated from college, and when you could have chose to go the typical route of working a job like most of us do. I know that's what I did after I graduated from Northeast and I got a job as a pharmacist. You decided to go the unconventional path and start your own business. What was the reason for that? And can you talk to us about what that journey has been like?
Yeah, for sure. So what's interesting is because I listen to a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of them talk about how as a kid they were buying and selling stuff at school and they had that. That wasn't me, man, at all. So I very much was on the path to get a job. I thought that was the way, go to college, get educated, get a job. And I was doing that. So I graduated school in 98 and started. I went to go to university, and it was a 4-year degree. And in 2000, a friend of mine had the ticket for a Robert Kiyosaki seminar that he go to. And I didn't know who Robert Kiyosaki was. I wasn't into personal development. That wasn't my jam. But for whatever reason, he sort of convinced me to go. I think it was pretty serendipitous. And I went to that. And Robert, just honestly, that just changed my life and my trajectory. Just opened my mind, being an entrepreneur and having assets. And I pretty much, that was in 2000, right? So I still had 2 years left of my degree. So I just consumed, I brainwashed myself, man. Wow. I read all Robert's books. He got his tape programs, and there was cassette tapes, man. I'm old, 2000, I'm older, right? So I really brainwashed myself. And, Robert talked about the benefits of being in the B quadrant. He talked about the cash flow quadrant. You can be an employee, self-employed, B quadrant, business owner, investor. And so I'm like, I'm going to do the B and I thing. And so when I graduated, I'm like, no, I'm not going to get a job. My mom had said to me, careful, it's risky, and I did know that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. And I'd said, my mom, I'm prepared to fail 10 times, right? If it's going to take 10, I'll do 10, So it was really now I'm very entrepreneurial, I'm very asset based, but again, that wasn't my natural inkling. It really was reading, learning, developing personally that took me on that trajectory.
Wow, yeah, I love it. It's crazy. It seems like Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the book that literally changed so many people's perspectives on wealth and real estate. I know it did for me. For me, the first time I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think I was in my young 20s, maybe 21, 20. And, I was in college and I was broke. I didn't have much money and I didn't really understand the concept of money. So I never really thought that I never really understood the concept of assets and liabilities until I read that book. And once I read that book, I was like, this is how people This is how people get rich. And for me, it was mind blowing because I genuinely didn't know how people got wealthy. Like I didn't know. Like no one in my family was like incredibly wealthy. None of my friends are incredibly wealthy. I grew up in the inner cities, so I learned about that concept, and it completely changed my life. And it seems like it's done a lot for you and whatnot. And so I guess Robert Kiyosaki inspired you to become a better entrepreneur and a real estate investor, and then you entered into starting your business. Can you talk about some of the challenges, or what was the biggest challenge that you have come across as a result of do starting your own business, especially at a young age?
So I mean, there were a lot of challenges. Like, it's even hard to say like what the big, like it's tough. It's scary. You know, I think an advantage of being so young was like I didn't have a lot to lose, if you know what I mean. Like, I didn't have a family. You know, I was with my girlfriend at the time. I've been with my wife for 20 odd years. She was 17 and I was 19 when we started dating. So I was at university. So she's been with me through this journey. So I had her, but she was a girlfriend. We didn't have kids.
Yeah.
You know, she had a job. She made more money than me. She actually, like, she was making money. Like, she was working. And I was like trying to make. She believed in me, which was helpful. She's not really entrepreneurial herself, but she had a belief in me, and that was empowering. But it was hard, like, because, you know, there were times when, you know, like, I wasn't making money. There was times when, like, I felt like it wasn't going to work. You know, there was times when I considered giving up. And that was a challenge, but for whatever reason, I had a vision of what I wanted, and I had a vision that I was going to do it no matter what. And, you know, I kept at it and kept pushing through, and, you know, I was able to do that. So I mean, I can't think of a specific challenge, but man, there's lots, and there is lots. You got to problem solve, you got to firefight, you got to make things happen, but you just need to know what you're trying to achieve and focus on that and keep going toward that.
You know, a very underrated challenge of entrepreneurship as a male that doesn't really go spoken about is, you know, the nature of business is when you first start off a business, you got to get your clients, you got to get, you know, you're pretty much starting out nothing. And if you have a girlfriend, it is pretty difficult mentally to be below her, because the reality is you're probably not making as much money as her. So as a man, that is very demeaning. Like, yeah, at least for some of us, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's a common issue, or at least beginner entrepreneurs. If you're with a woman, for a woman to be making more than you, and you feel like a bit emasculated because you kind of, yo, baby, like, this gym is gonna work, and like, or, you know, you gotta believe in me. It's like, what the hell? Like, I don't see any money coming in. It's like a weird dynamic, you know? Do you feel that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but, you know, like, you know, at least I had belief in myself, and I was fortunate that she had believed in me too. So, like, she was supporting us in those early years, and, you know, but she believed in what we were doing, and I'm totally thankful to her for that, you know. And, you know, I'm fortunate to have had a lot of success in my career now, and, you know, I have to thank her for those early days and trusting me. So it was a little bit emasculating, but I must say I'm not too stressed by that. Like I'm not. It didn't concern me, and she was fine, so it wasn't an issue. But I could see how, you know, it could consume you if you know, because it's a reality.
Yeah. And I mean, and it sounds like you're securing yourself because you're not attaching your net worth to your self worth. I think that's a whole nother concept, but I think a lot of people do that, and that's where the insecurity comes, which I understand. But that's a whole nother conversation that I don't want to get into. I want to talk to you more about like your first time where you actually brought real estate, like in your first real estate property, because I feel like for all of us it's just a real moment. You know, for me, my first real estate purchase was an FHA house hack, and it did a lot for me psychologically. I'm curious, what was your first real estate purchase, and can you take us through that progress?
I can, but FHA house hack, that's a great way to start. I didn't know about that stuff, and in Australia we didn't really had that same thing. So I was in Australia my first purchase, but I think that's a really good way to start. So yeah, awesome. I would do that again if I was starting today. So my first purchase was I think maybe probably like 2010, maybe somewhere around there. So I'd been working on my business first, right? So it was like build a business and buy assets, again following Kiyosaki's formula. And, you know, we had happened to start to, you know, have some success in the business, and we started to pay ourselves a salary. You know, so I started to actually get some security of income, and I was able to like show that salary to to the bank, and I was able to figure out I could qualify for a loan. So I knew I wanted to buy real estate. I got into a group that was real estate investors. It was like a small group where they helped us, like they would look at the deals. So if we would find the deals, but they were a sounding board. You would show your deals and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and they would like give you some opinions. So we'd research areas. I bought out of my area, so I lived in a very expensive part. Australia is very expensive. I lived in Sydney. It's the second least affordable city in the world, income to property prices. So it's like crazy expensive. So I rented where I lived, and I wanted to buy a property where it was more affordable and the rent relative to the price was better. So I identified an area. I found there was a couple of suburbs on my short list in Queensland, which is a state above me. And so I figured out my area. I'm like, this area looks good. I looked at like census data. So I did a lot of data analysis. I like this area. I'm going to buy it here. I then started contacting some people to help me. So I spoke to a lot of property managers, and I figured out the property manager. I asked them, what are people renting? What do they like? Are they 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms? I got like that. So I first going with the area. Then I got comfortable with the property type I wanted. And then I found a property manager I was going to use, and I got them to we look at properties I'm looking at. So I started to become comfortable because I knew I liked the area, tick. I knew the sort of house to buy, tick. I knew the return I was after. So then I would look at the listings and I would negotiate to the return I wanted. And so I started to get some deals where now the return is what I want. It's in the area. It's the property I like. I would send my property manager there to walk the property, and he'll clarify what rent to think I'll get. Is there any issues around the place? Is it next to a graveyard? Because I wasn't local. So I didn't go. I didn't look at the property. I let him go. I'm like, it's fine. So I'm like, okay, check. That works. I would make my offer. Then once I was accepted, I got a professional property inspection report. So now I'm like, okay, the area's good. The property is nothing majorly wrong with the area. But then the property inspection gave me that confidence that, all right, well, I see what's wrong with the house. There's nothing major. There's a few little things. I can live with that. That gave me the confidence, and I bought it. I did. It was just my first investments weren't anything spectacular. I mean, I am an investor now, so I have a lot of properties, but this one was pretty standard. I put down 20%. So we don't have FHAs like that in Australia. So I put 20% down, got an 80% loan, and I bought the property. And, so I think just having people, professionals, all the people around me just allowed me to make confidence in the decision. And, I knew it was good enough. Was it the best property? Was it the best area? Was it, I don't know. I don't know. But it was good. I felt confident enough that it matched the criteria, and I just did it.
Yeah, they say the best time to invest is now. You never know what you don't know, and it's better to not be analyzing and being paralysis. Just do it. God dang it! And I tell all my friends that, but some people, I'm sure you have friends who you tell and you talk to them, right? And then they ask you questions, and you're not gonna do it anyways. But that's a whole other,
one of my favorite sayings that I think it comes from Facebook in the early days of Facebook, and it was done is better than perfect, right? And done's better than perfect. You want to be good, don't make a cut, but it doesn't need to be perfect. Perfect is just good enough, done.
I completely agree with you. And once you get the experience, you realize it's not as hard as people make it seem. And then you gain the confidence to continuously do it. So, before you started real estate, you mentioned you read Robert Kiyosaki's book that changed your life. And part of the real estate process is you're constantly doing research, seeing how much the rents are, seeing how much expenses are, and seeing what the costs are and how profitable it is. But you never actually got into real estate. You don't really know what you're getting into until you dive into it. At what point did you start to be like, man, this is for me? Or where did you know you loved it? Because now you're constantly doing it, and it's who you are, and you've been doing it for years,
Yeah, so good question. So I really became so I started making investments in maybe 2010 or somewhere around, I don't know exactly actually, but around then. But I don't think I really became a property investor until about 2019. So I had 6 properties. I amassed 6 rentals in Australia. So I was an investor,
Yeah.
I was really running my business. It was a asset that I had. But when I came to America, I decided that I wanted to stay here, and I made a business around real estate. So I started Home Buyer Louisiana,
Oh, okay.
and so we started wholesaling properties. So like where we would get a contract and assign it to other investors. So that's when I really became an investor. It's like full time marketing for distressed properties. So no longer looking on the MLS. We're looking for direct seller calls coming to us, analyzing deals, becoming very competent in that. And so, since then I've done 170 transactions, a lot of them wholesale. I do also own rentals. I now have like 27 properties and that was 36 doors, a couple of multifamilies.
Wow.
But that was like 2019 when I started to that's when I became an investor. I do this full time now. I live and breathe real estate. We run a meetup here in New Orleans. So I'm all day talking and doing real estate.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm just curious, man. Like you basically said, you didn't really take on the identity of becoming an investor until 2019, once you moved to America, because you came from Australia, which is just very interesting to me. I'm feeling. Do you feel like once you moved to America, you started to develop a more of a business-like mentality, or more for entrepreneurial mentality, or more for grind mentality as a result of being in that country? Did it change how you looked at yourself? I'm just curious, like.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely in America, I appreciate the capitalism and the entrepreneurial spirit in America. I did consider myself an entrepreneur in Australia because I did have a business. It just wasn't real estate. With more tech. So I did identify as an entrepreneur, but the difference was when I decided to move here, my entrepreneurial focus turned to creating a business in real estate. Okay. Right. So it was just like now I'm entrepreneur in the real estate space, and I'm a real estate investor. But America did unlock that. A couple things about America: the property is much better here than Australia. The investment as an investment vehicle. The other thing that a lot of Americans don't appreciate is that the 30-year fixed debt. You mentioned FHA. I mean, FHA, 3.5%, right, and a 30-year fixed rate, right? Like, there's no such thing as a 30-year fixed rate outside of America.
What? How long is it in Australia?
Like 5 years the max. I'm like, years, right? Yeah, man. And so it's not even like here where you have the adjustable rate. It normally has rules like adjust every 6 months, and in Australia, if the Fed, it's called the Reserve Bank, but I'll say Fed, if they raise their interest rates, they honestly you get a letter in the mail within 2 or 3 days from your bank saying we're adjusting the rates going up.
Oh my gosh, I could not do that. Oh my gosh. And it's just so interesting that you said that, because now that I'm looking back, I do take that for granted. That's just something that I normalized. Like, you know what I'm saying? I never even thought. I'm not gonna lie, if I moved internationally to Europe, France, or something, I would just imagine that it would be the same. That's crazy, man.
It's all Americans take it for granted. I find they're generally shocked when I say it. So when I came, I'm like, wow, 30-year fixed debt. I started to do BRRRRs where you buy, renovate it, rent it out, and then refinance your money out. So I was able to buy properties at a discount because I'm finding the deals. I'm able to get a tenant in there. I then do a refinance. Then bank will lend me 75% of the value. And because I bought it cheap and added value, I generally get all my money back. So I got my money back. I now own an asset with 30-year fixed debt. The tenants are paying down the note. I got that 25% equity sitting in the property if I ever wanted to sell it. But now I have 30-year fixed debt. The tenant's paying for it. I'm sitting on that for 30 years, man. Sweet deal. With inflation happening, the rents are going to go up, the value is going to go up, but that payment stays the same. So that it's a real gift to Americans. And so if you're just a homeowner in America, it's a real benefit because just having a home is an inflation hedge that's helpful. But if you my entrepreneurial mind's that's cool, but I'm going to entrepreneur this up. I'm going to buy a bunch until and I get not just not just inflation hedge. It's a real bet on inflation with that 30-year fixed debt. So, I'm definitely that's what moving here woke me to be an entrepreneur in the property space and just going really hard in property.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you've been able to intelligently leverage the power of refinancing, which is incredible, man. And it's definitely something I ought to do more and pay more attention to, because it sounds like by being able to refinance, you can kind of create like a circular process of continuously reinvesting, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And, we're using the DCSR loan. So, the debt service coverage ratio loan. So they are asset based. So you can get multiple, like, because your conventional loans cap out at 10, right? You can do so many FHAs. You can do them like that's a good way to start, but like there's a limit to what you can do. But if you can tap into, DCSR loans, you can get as many as you want. You get them in an LLC. And it's very powerful. And yes, the recycling is the power, because you do it, refinance, get your money back, buy the next one. And it's repeat, and it's a very powerful concept. And I love it.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear, man. And so as you were speaking, one thing that you said that stood out to me is that you said you have 36 units and 27 properties, which if you do the math, that means that most of your properties are single family, which is just interesting to me. I don't, to me, none of this is wrong. Oh, you have more multifamily, you have more apartment. To me, it's all real estate, and you're winning at the end of the day. But I'm just curious, like, it probably seems, were you intentional about buying a bunch of single family homes? And if so, why was that the case?
Yeah, I tend to like single families better. I'm not against multifamily. I don't think it's right or wrong. Like there's
Yeah.
both good assets. I tend to like the single families. There's just something about it. I think it has multiple exit strategies, because
Okay.
it works as a rental. Like I'm buying it as a rental, but also like a family just buys it. So
Yeah.
if you're selling in a bad market, like maybe like, now it's been a pretty tough market the last couple of years, right? So
Sure.
being less investors because the rates are going up,
Yeah.
but people still want starter homes. So you have a secondary market. I also just like, I think a lot of people talk about multifamilies. It's like good because, if one tenant's not paying, the other one's paying. And that's true. But like, to me, if you have a portfolio, it doesn't, like, it's the same thing. It's like if one house isn't paying, cool, that house is 100% vacant, but I got another one over here and here. So, and then you could diversify a little bit, like geographically, just like like not on the same. The multifamily is all in one area, right? We get hurricanes in New Orleans, in Louisiana. So if you get a hurricane that rolls through your area and it takes out your whole multifamily, that's like everything's down. Yes, got insurance, but it's all in one place. Whereas with the single families, I've got them in different areas. And so it's a little bit spread out, so I just like that. And it just makes sense to me. It's like, it's a house. Like it's just always, there's always value in that. I don't buy a super expensive house. I like to be around, like, I don't get the high end houses because the rents don't tend to keep up. So I like to get like median,
Yeah.
right, house price. It's just a stable, easy
Yeah.
asset. I tend to understand it and like it.
Yeah, no, I like you said, I don't think there's any right or wrong. 'Cause I would imagine doing single family has some underrated benefits that doesn't go advertised. One, you're only dealing with one person too. So like, the maintenance is probably easier. Two, I would also imagine their appreciation is, but I don't know. You in your experience, because you also own other multi-families, do you feel like the single families appreciate a bit better, or not really any difference?
Yeah, I mean they're valuable, but particularly if you're going over, like if you're going over 4, like
Yeah.
like anything under a quad is like residential, so it's gonna like raise with comp. So that they're probably similar, but like once you go multifamily, it's just a whole different metric, because it's really valued based on the net operating income, in cap rates, and that could just fluctuate. So sometimes it might be better. Like multifamily was really hot in 21, and so the cap rates were low. So if you had multifamily in that time and you were selling, you were probably doing better than the single families you owned. But more recently, that's changed, and you're probably doing worse. So I don't think it's better or worse. It's different. But I think the single families, the fact that like homeowners will buy it, it just the market might be bad, investment stuff. So I think it's safe. I think you're always going to have a market to sell to as a single family. So you can be less affected by the timing of when you're trying to exit.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely think it's a more sellable product for sure, because I think people enjoy living by themselves. Yeah, I think I definitely agree. People enjoy living by themselves, and they're probably more likely to take care of the place in general, because it's their house. They have a feeling of ownership. And so what I'm just curious to learn about your overall acquisition strategy and what that looks like. For me personally, what works for me as of now is just buy one property a year. That's just what I'm doing. For me, it's easy, it's simple, it's sustainable. Everyone has different strategies, and I feel like if you go on social media, people are telling you to do this and that and what. And for me, it's what's most important is what works for you. I'm curious in your experience, what works for you and what's your strategy like?
First I was echo. Yeah, I think you're right. Like it's the thing that for you is there's no right or wrong. You should do whatever's comfortable for you. One rental at a time is a good way to do it. So I went on a bit of, I mean, I can be aggressive. So I tend to like experiment and I can lean aggressively into a place. So I did buy a lot. I think I did like 14 properties in like 12 months. And so like I did it like that I kept. I'm always wholesaling, so I'm always doing transactions. So like the benefit is I'm marketing to end users and I don't buy everything myself. I will often assign them to other people. So it means like I'm often doing 5-7 transactions a month.
Middleman.
I'm not keeping them all. So,
Yep.
but then if I decide to keep them, I can like lean in and I have the infrastructure set up to do it. So I did buy a lot and that was really good. The interest rates were low. I did a lot of burrs, but I did slow down because I did realize that I think the rentals are long-term benefit. Like they don't show a lot when you burn, when you pull on the money out, it's like a long-term benefit. So I did realize if I buy, another 15 in the next 12 months, like it's not going to do a lot for me like right now. It's going to make it a lot more in the future, but I bought a lot. So like that's a pretty decent, I've taken a pretty good position. I took my foot off the gas. And I've only bought a couple in the last 2 years. I think I've kept maybe 3 or 4. So like, and that's probably my style. Like I'm like a little bit like, really aggressive, and then slow down, but I'll probably at some point soon, I'll probably go aggressive again. And like I could see myself doing another like big swipe, but I'm not feeling it right now. The time is not right now for me. I'm pretty non-aggressive right now. I'm wholesaling more of my deals. And so I feel like it's time to add to that portfolio.
Yeah. I mean, literally what you said about like the long-term benefit of real estate is literally why I chose to just, keep it simple for me and just focus on once a year because, when I was young and I got my first property, like it was like, yeah, I got my first property. Like I feel empowered. I feel strong. Like who's doing this at 24? And then once you start to take care of the property and actually experience what it's like to be a real estate investor, it's not as glorious as it seems, at least for me. Maybe it's not really as glorious as you are. And the income, although it is nice, and when I got my first paycheck, it was awesome. It's not as much as like as one would think. At least for me, at least like I feel like social media projects and whatnot. So I feel like the real benefit comes from holding the property for a long time, not necessarily the rental income, although it's definitely a great benefit to have.
No, I 100% agree. I actually think it's important for people to understand. I think it is a misconception. People are like, hey, I'm going to go buy a couple properties. I'm going to retire on this rental income. And it's pretty hard to do that like at first. Unless you're generating a lot of cash somewhere else. If you're taking cash and you're buying rentals or cash, yeah, that's going to give you you can live off that income. But if you're using debt, you're doing FHA loans, you know what I mean? Like you got a lot of debt. I'm doing burrs, so like I'm pulling all my money out. So, but you're not going to be left with a lot of cash flow when you account for maintenance, like sort of stuff. So, for me, the benefit isn't so much like, hey, I'm getting this cash flow now because that cash flow, it's paying down the note, it's paying the maintenance, it's keeping shut, but that wealth is growing because over time, again, like with inflation, the rents start to go up. But the value starts to go up. The debt that you're paying, like over time, more of it goes to principal pay down. So you're paying note. So that note. So over time, you start to absolutely it splits, and you're going to build real wealth. So the assets are very meaningful in the medium term. But if you're trying to like buy it and you're counting on living off it right now, you're probably going to have trouble, and you're going to have to sell your asset. You can get yourself into trouble. So I think it's important to have a long-term view. You need to make money elsewhere, whether you're keeping your job, Like don't be in a rush to retire.
Sure.
Like, let your income pay for itself, and then let the rentals grow. Or if you got a business, like let the business make money in your business and let the rentals sit. In 5 years, it's probably going to look after you. In 10 years, very likely. That 15 years, pretty much for sure. And in 30 years, it's all paid off, and you are very generationally wealthy, and you're leaving a legacy for a family.
For sure. No, I love what you said. And from a philosophical perspective, when you do real estate, the biggest asset you have is really time. That's at least for me. That's what I'm learning. It's like, okay, really time. That's the value. And so for me, when I'm buying real estate, it's like I'm already getting older, and time is constantly passing. So why don't I let time be an asset for me? You know what I'm saying? That's really how I look at it. But it wasn't always like that for me when I first started. It's just interesting to say because, I feel like one of the things that makes real estate so hard to continuously do is that leverage of debt and always constantly having to basically be financially sound enough and savvy enough to utilize debt. So I'm curious, like, what's your relationship with debt like, and how do you use it to your advantage? Because I do feel like that scares a lot of people from getting into this business.
Yeah, I mean, you should respect debt because, like I love debt. I think debt is a very good tool, but it should be respected. Just like a gun is a tool, but like it can get you food. You can hunt with it, or you can also shoot yourself with it, right? So I think debt's like that. So you should respect it, but I definitely I think it's one of the best tools you have, and it's linked to that time that you mentioned because and it's why I like real estate so much. Like I'm not a HGTV guy. I don't really care about real estate in that sense. I love the asset. And I love the fact that it's really easy to get debt because it's an asset. So they'll lend you money. Yeah. Now, I think debt's really powerful. Yeah. And let me explain it this way because, and it links with your time and debt. It's all together and it's inflation, right? So we've all seen recently, there was a lot of inflation, like 9%. Like we had some pretty heavy inflation in the last couple of years. So I think everyone's aware of inflation. But even when it's not like that, inflation, the target is 2%. So even when inflation is not a lot, 2% every year compounds and is a lot. So if you own a property without debt, okay, let's say in 10 years' time it doubles, right? So let's say with inflation, like I don't even think it's because it's probably going to double in 10 years. Sure. But when it's doubled, the price of gas has doubled, the price of dinner's doubled, the price of everything's doubled. So you haven't really got ahead. You preserved wealth, right? It's better than having the money in the bank because that money in the bank would have actually decreased in what you can buy. So you preserved, but you haven't got ahead. Now, that same scenario, you had this property that you bought with debt, okay, 30-year fixed debt. Now in 10 years' time, the value of the property's doubled, the value of the rent's doubled, and yes, the price of gas and food is doubled. So everything else is doubled. Yep. I'd say what hasn't doubled? Your debt. Your debt is fixed. It's fixed. It's the same payment it was 10 years ago, right? So that fixed debt is so powerful. Now you've actually got way ahead because you didn't put your cash into it. You used the debt, and the value, what you paying that debt, it feels like less because when you use 10 years dollars, like everything will double the price. So you're making double the money
for sure.
Right? And then you're paying the same old debt 10 years ago. Yeah. Now you're getting ahead. Yeah. And now that debt is also amortizing. Like it's paying you're not just paying the debt, you're paying the interest and the principal. Yeah. So now the principal's higher as well. So that's how you're really getting ahead. So I think debt is your most valuable tool. Without debt, it's not as powerful. The debt is the power because it protects you from the inflation and allows you to really benefit from time. And if you control that well, it's pretty hard to lose. It's a pretty safe investment if you're buying it right and if the rents, as long as there's income to match the debt, as long as you got the income to pay it off from the rental, as long as there's some cushion. So like whether you got to have some vacancies, you're gonna have some expenses, as long as you have some cushion in there, you're gonna do really well with that debt.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that you broke that down because I think it's so important, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand this concept. And the way that I would break it down, like for my first property, where I started off, I did 3.5% down. The property was worth at the time like $166,000, but I only needed to put about $15,000 or $16,000 to pretty much own an asset that's worth $166,000. That's as simple as I can make it, and like that's the power of debt. And I don't know too many businesses or opportunities that give you an opportunity to put so much money little down to own such and so valuable valuable, and I think a lot of people that goes over people's head, but it's so important. And that's where the value or the arbitrage from an investment perspective takes place.
Exactly right. And in that scenario, right, you hold that for 10 years, it doubles.
Yep.
Now, like that cash you put down was so small. So when you get your return on investment on your return on your cash on cash invest on return is huge because you used the debt. And if you put all that money down, it would have doubled, but it wouldn't have been as exponential as yourself.
Yeah, yes, sir. I agree. We're speaking the same talk. I think you and I understand it. I just want to make it clear for people who may not, because I think it's so important. And so, you mentioned Home Buyer Louisiana, and that sounds like another business in itself. And I'm curious to learn that, because I only do real estate investing. I don't necessarily I don't have any other business in real estate like that. So can you talk to me about that, and what does that look like?
Definitely. Yeah. So Home Buyer Louisiana is really an acquisition company. So it's not really like I buy properties and I do key on my properties as we discussed, like some of them, and that's my assessments. But Home Buyer Louisiana itself is really the business that's finding the deals, and a lot of those deals I wholesale. So I find them. So a wholesale, if your audience doesn't know, it's basically I would get the contract to buy a property at a discounted price because I'm marketing, I'm speaking, I know the prices people want, and maybe I get the contract to buy it for $90,000, and I know that my buyers, I have a lot of network of people I work with. I know they would pay $100K for it, so I will get the contract for $90K. And then I would assign my rights to that contract to my buyer to buy it for $100K. So now my buyer will bring their $100K to the closing, and from that $100K, the seller will get the $90,000, and I will get the $10,000 as an assignment fee, right? And so that's my business. So I'm always, and that allows me to keep marketing. So like I'm spending money to market, to find these leads. I've got 2 acquisition people who work the phones for me, so they'll do the leads, and I have a disposition person that sells the deals for me now. So like they're always going, and we're making money from the buyers who they don't want to do that work. It's hard to find really discounted, distressed leads, right? It takes marketing, it takes a system, conversations, time, and to some of my rehabbers who are the HGTV people who like, swinging a hammer and making it beautiful, they don't want to do all the sales and marketing follow-up. So they love that we can just feed them deals on platter. And so we're making revenue from that. And then I keep the deals I want, the deals that match my criteria work. And that really helps because it's hard to do a lot of marketing. If you're doing off-market marketing to sellers, if you're not wholesaling, like you're going to throw away a lot of leads. You're going to spend money and speak to someone and go, I just don't like that area. I don't really like multifamily as much. So you're going to throw that lead away. But then it's hard to make money on your marketing because you're spending the money, but you're not making money on the marketing. So by wholesaling that contract to other buyers, I can now turn that lead into money because I'm creating value from it, and I can afford to keep marketing. And so that's really what Home Buyer Louisiana is doing. It's always marketing. It's always analyzing deals. Yeah, could pick some of them, and we'll assign some of them, and we'll do this. We do this day in, day out.
Gotcha. So essentially, to my understanding, Home Buyer Louisiana is like a wholesaling company. Essentially, gotcha. And you do a lot of marketing and middleman in between buyer and sellers to essentially make a profit.
Exactly. And it is backed, like, I do buy myself, but they're sort of separate entities. So like it is backed by me buying, and I do, you need to like deliver for your sellers. So like as wholesale, like if you're telling a seller you're going to buy it, you got to deliver on it, and I bought some properties I didn't want to look after my sellers sometimes. So you got to make sure you can close for your sellers, but that's what we're doing all day.
Yeah. And so, one question that I do have is, because I'm just curious, like, you have your real estate properties on the side, and someone might be wondering, oh, you own real estate. Why do you feel the need to wholesale? Is that necessary? What's that about,
Well, it's really my skill set. So I mean, my background is sales and marketing. So like it's actually what I'm good at. I'm actually less good at property. So it's a way, it's my in to the market. Like, and I have a strong network around me of property investors because like they want deals. So I've learned from them. So by wholesaling, like it really immerses you into the heart of real estate, connects me with a very wide network of the best investors, the people that are buying lots of property. So it really helps me get in the middle, and then I can pick the deals that work for me. So the deals I keep, they're only the easy deals. They're not the good deals. I mean, it's really important. Any deal I get under contract and assign is a good deal. I don't send out bad deals.
Yeah.
But I keep the easy deals.
I know it.
Good deal that doesn't need too much work. Because again, I'm not the if it's got foundation issues, if it's like a massive rehab, I don't want to touch it. Yeah. If it's like paint, carpet, clean out, like bad tenants, like, they're the ones I will buy because I feel comfortable. So for me, wholesaling is like just using my skill set to really immerse myself into the real estate industry in my market.
Yeah, and that's part of knowing yourself. I mean, and that's just a whole life topic, knowing yourself. What does that mean? But knowing yourself in regards to real estate investing is, I think, also important, because just like you, I've been presented with many opportunities to rehab and do all the major repairs, and I'm like, look, I know some people love that. That's not for me either. Look, it's just not for me. And I'm not saying I'm not knocking it down. I understand the value add, but I don't want to waste my time doing something I don't feel comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people ought to know what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And so as a wholesaler, you're you're keen on marketing and you have that marketing prowess. Marketing has definitely not been something that has come natural to me. And all three of my real estate deals, I personally have gotten from the MLS.
Yep.
And they have been above average deals. I don't regret it. Like, they've been above average deals. But I'm constantly, as I have real estate investors, everyone's saying the best deals come from off market. So I'm just curious, like, how do you find deals outside of the MLS? Because as long as I've been a real estate investor, I've never been able to do it. And I'm just curious, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it takes some effort, right? So like, and if you're buying one deal a year, you probably don't need to, because it's an investment. Like, it's work, right? And it's money. Like, it's not free. Like, you need to like invest a lot of time is finding. A lot of people do driving for dollars, where they're looking for dilapidated like houses, and they'll look up the owner and call them. I do a lot of online marketing. So if people are searching, if people are Googling, if people are like looking to sell inherited property, distressed property, they'll often find me. So like, that's how I do it. I get the phone ringing, and they're normally, though, the flip side is they're problem properties. Like, there's always issues with them. That's why they're calling me, because we tell people, anyone that calls us, if the house is beautiful, we're like, list it with a realtor. Like, if it's ready for a homeowner, we're not your buyer. Yeah. Like, but if it needs work, we are your buyer, because we can add value, and our buyers can add value to that property. So, I don't think you need to buy wholesale, though, right? Because it depends on your volume. If you're a real rehabber and you want to do volume, then yeah, you want to either direct market, or if you're only doing a couple, you can get on wholesalers lists. You can work for good agents. There are deals on the MLS. It's like,
yeah,
there are deals there. Like, so I think there's nothing wrong with that. And there is you will get better deals from a wholesaler. Yeah. It comes with some catches, right? You need to be able to buy. Some people who try to do their first deal, like, hey, I want to be at your list. I'm like, get on my list and check out my deals. Okay. But I normally say you probably don't want to buy it. You get first deal off me, right? Because when you buy a deal from a wholesaler, you don't get an inspection period, like all cash. You got to close really fast. You're normally going to deal with some issues, like they're going to leave, the tenants are going to leave stuff in the house. Like, It's not smooth. So it's like, as a professional investor, those guys they're going to get a cheap price to handle, and that's why the sellers will sell it at a wholesale price, because they're like, I'm not cleaning it, I'm not fixing it. I know there's a hole in the roof. I know it's full of crap. I know my mom was a hoarder and I've inherited it, and I'm not cleaning it, right? Like, so it comes to issue. So the buyer has to go, I'm just going to buy it cash, no inspection. I'm not getting an inspection. I'm just going to buy it. But like, they feel comfortable in their skills to do that. If you're a new investor, you probably don't want to do that. Like, you probably want to go on the MLS. You want to get it under contract. You want to have a longer inspection period. You want to get all your people through it. You want to know what you're getting into. And yes, you might pay more, but it's going to be safer and more comfortable for you. So I don't see anything wrong with that. just as you scale, if you're trying to do this at volume, you're trying to be as the flipper, or you're trying to build a massive portfolio fast, then yeah, you probably want to get to off market and learn to like buy in that way.
I love what you're saying, man. And I wish I had someone like you telling me this 3, 4 years ago. I was 23, 24, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing, nor did I know what I wanted. That's the most important thing. And I feel like I was just following the advice of everyone on like social media. I don't know. And everyone's pretty much telling you, you got to find off market property. You got to find off market property. You got to send like 10,000 letters. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I actually think there's great value in that. But as I was doing real estate, I realized, one, I didn't have the capital to make all those volume transactions. And two, I didn't really want to anyways. I was just kind of cool buying a property a year. And I didn't realize that you didn't have to do that until I got a lot more experience. And I feel like this is not the sexy message, but it's the true message.
One rental at a time, one rental a year through the MLS. That's a beautiful formula. Like it's just like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Again, don't fall for the social media. Oh, I just got to be sick. Like that is an option. You can do that. Like,
yeah.
But one a year is a very good way to build wealth. And if you're doing one a year, just get a good realtor.
Yeah.
It's just the MLS is fine. You can find one deal a year, a great deal a year through the MLS. Absolutely.
No, man, I'm glad you're saying this, because honestly, if I heard this and I took your advice earlier, I would have saved myself so much time, because I've been spending hours with wholesalers. I've been spending hours on like different off market websites, and all that wasted, and I never even found a deal. So I honestly regret doing it. But it's also a learning experience, because now I know what works for me, so, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, I mean, also, Stephen, you also mentioned, so like you have all these properties and you're continuously wholesaling, you're continuously investing in yourself. And I guess for me, the question becomes like, what's the point of doing all of this? Why constantly do it? What's the goal? What's the ultimate purpose in being in this real estate business for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty clear on that. It's freedom, So my goals is to live abundantly and have freedom to spend time with my wife, my kids, their grandkids, which don't exist yet, but like their grandkids. That's my goal. Straight in. And when I say abundance, I'm not talking like, I'm not very materialistic. Like the abundance is just like having what we need, being able to go out for dinner, like, living to be able to do what we want, but I don't care about Gucci and jars. There's not that sort of abundance, but abundance of life. So that's really what I'm after. I think property gives you that, like by having assets and having you have the power, like as you acquire them, you can make money not from just the hours you're putting into a job, but through your assets, and over time you can, like, when you have enough of those assets, you can do what you want. And that's what I like. That's why I do it.
Yeah. Well, so how do you find purpose in real estate? Because the reason why I'm asking you that is because I feel like one of the things that often goes unsaid about real estate investing is although it's a great way to make income, it's not as passive as one would think it is. At least for me, you got this time you got to put into it. You gotta manage tenants. If you have a property manager, you got to manage a property manager. You got to pay taxes. You get emails about certain random things going on, and it requires your time and attention. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm so keen on doing one property a year, because I was beginning to realize that if I did any more, I kind of got obsessed with it. It was really taking away a lot of my time, and I almost kind of felt like I was imprisoning myself. Like it kind of became like the opposite of why I even wanted to do it, because just like you, I wanted my own freedom. So can you speak towards that? Because I think that's a very important topic that doesn't get spoken about.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's really insightful of you to realize that. I mean, I love what I do, and like for me, it's a more like we enjoy, like we have our company philosophy at Home Buyer Louisiana is that everyone's smiling at the closing table. And we have photos up in our office. Like we try to get photos in the majority of our closings. In our office, you see all these photos of happy, smiling sellers, buyers. So we enjoy it. We're generally solving problems. So like most of our sellers have a problem. So like we enjoy like helping them, sorting it out, giving them a good solution. I enjoy seeing the like revitalization in the neighborhoods and areas. There's a lot of blighted properties in New Orleans, and a lot of the properties we deal with are blighted. So it's like take that property, see it fixed up, back, in commerce, have a new homeowner in it. So I enjoy it. So for me, it's fun. I like it. If I stop liking it, I'll stop it.
They do something else.
But I enjoy that. So for me, it's fun. I still have property managers for my rentals, so I'm not too hands-on. Definitely give they're competent people. I do need to manage them, but like they're pretty competent. So I'm not taking tenants. Well, I don't do that. I've had people die in my properties, and I have people in properties, yeah. And my property manager told me about it. They handled it. So they told me after the fact, it's like, hey, Steve, why don't you know someone that was found dead in your property? It's okay. Like they had waited there. They had to get like the coroner or the police and all that. So, and then they had to get it forensically cleaned. So, but it's not like I didn't get a phone call saying, hey, someone's dead in the house.
Yeah.
I got a phone call saying this happened. This is what we did. Just want you to know that it's handled, and so I appreciate that. That's how, it is. I'm not really hands-on with the management. I am hands-on with the deal making, the marketing, the sellers, because I love that. That's my passion. So I keep myself in the thing that I'm excited about.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think at the end of the day, as long as you're doing anything you love to do, then I think that's what makes it worth it. Because I feel like for me personally, the prize is in the process of doing it, not necessarily what you get, because the returns aren't guaranteed, and you don't know what's coming out of it. So I love that, and I love that you mentioned your property manager and how he removed you from having to deal with that time. That would be a stressful thing. And I only have 3 properties, so I don't have a property manager yet, but that's definitely a goal. What do you think?
Okay. Let me interject. Let me interject, because this is something I try to tell, because everyone says the same thing, and I actually think it's upside down, right? Because property managers charge a percentage, right? So often 10% or 8%, whatever it is, right? It's a percentage. So most people say to me, they all say the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to get a property manager when I get a certain amount of.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
It's actually the reverse. Because it's a percentage. So the best value you get is that first property, because you've only got one property. You're paying a percentage, and that property manager has got all the infrastructure to collect payments. So you're really benefiting. The truth is, now that I have more properties, I probably could justify, I don't know, I haven't done the math, and I don't really have the side to, so I don't really want to. No. Like, as you get more, actually it's the reverse, because now I can hire someone. So now instead of paying a percentage or property manager, I could hire in-house somebody, and I can take care of that myself. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not so much hiring a property manager, it's more like hiring a person, because you have a lot of properties. But if you're just paying someone a percentage, that's the best percent. Like, it's just a little bit less cash flow, but like, it gives you peace of mind. You still don't have to worry about it. But I wouldn't have the properties I have now for managing myself. I wouldn't want it, because I wouldn't be enjoying myself. I'd be like, I don't want to have someone died, I'm done dealing with this, but I don't deal with it. So I do more. So I think property manager is worth it.
What you're saying makes sense, and I never really considered it like that. And honestly, like, it may be a sign for me to actually get it, because to be honest, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, man, I have 5 properties, that's when I'm gonna get it. But it's like, well, what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? And if peace of mind is what you value most, which for me is the most important thing, why not do it now? And for me, also at this particular time, one of my properties has like 2 vacancies, so it kind of makes sense, and it's a good time to do it. So I'm going to take you on that. I'm going to definitely consider it more, man. I appreciate that, man. Anyway, Stephen, well, I enjoyed this real estate conversation. It was very productive. It was very eye-opening, and I learned a lot about real estate, and I'm glad that my friend Adrian Smoot introduced me to you. For anyone who may be interested in working with you, connecting with you, or getting to know you more, how can people do that?
Yes, my website's homebuyerlouisiana.com. You can look me up there. Probably the best place. Like, I'm on Facebook, but my Facebook's generally more like I'm posting photos of my kids and stuff. Okay. But if you want to talk real estate, I do run a meetup, and we do have a Facebook group which is really active. It's called West Bank Real Estate Investors. Okay. If you want to connect, like and talk real estate, I post there pretty actively about real estate, and people will ask questions, and there's a good community there of of me and other investors. So if you want to like connect on real estate, best thing is go to West Bank Real Estate Investors Facebook group. I'm there, I'm talking, and the bonus is you'll find a lot of other people like me there talking. So it's probably the best place to like connect and talk that way. If you're in New Orleans, like, or if you're in Louisiana, go to Home Buyer Louisiana, connect with me directly if you want to buy deals, etc. But if you're just more generally around, and just West Bank Real Estate Investors would be the place to go.
Well, you heard it from the guy. If you want to connect with him, he gave you your socials, and if you're in Louisiana or you happen to be in this area, say what's up. Anyways, look, Stephen, thank you so much for offering your time and having this conversation. I really appreciate the simplicity in your business acumen. For me, that's something that I'm really valuing more, not just in life, but also in business. Like, simplicity is the key. And I don't like when people overcomplicate things. And I feel like real estate can get complicated depending on how you do it. But you had like a very simple way of doing things and even communicating it. So I appreciate that. And because of this conversation, I have some things to think about. So thank you. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. And y'all have a good one.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.